Hey y'all, this is Karen with RenovatedFaith.com, and this week on the blog we are talking about using a grain filler on cabinets. Now, you're probably wondering, what's a grain filler and why do I need to use one when I'm already painting my cabinets? And the problem is a lot of these honey oak cabinets you see are oak cabinets, and oak is known for having a deep wood grain. That means that it has deep pores that sometimes paint alone will not fill. In fact, I'll show you later in this video how just painting over oak with a deep grain, it'll actually emphasize the pores and show up as little divots on the surface of your cabinets. So to avoid this, one thing we can do is to add a grain filler. And I've done a lot of research, as you know I like to do, and have found the absolute best grain filler for cabinets, and it is Aqua Coat in white. And in this tutorial, I'll show you everything you need to know to apply it yourself. I've talked to a couple cabinet refinishers that use this product also, and they will actually charge twice the amount per door or unit when applying this. So yes, it adds an extra step to an already long process, but it's easy to do and the extra effort is so worth the final finish because it doesn't look like it was DIY'd. It looks like a professional finish and you're getting it all at a fraction of the price. So be sure to check out the blog post as I go into detail about everything you need and also some more tips and tricks. And thank you so much for watching this video. Here you can see how my cabinets started in all their orange honey oak glory. And because it's oak wood, it has a really deep wood grain that just paint alone does not cover well. But fortunately, by applying Aqua Coat, we can get a beautiful, smooth, professional finish on oak cabinets. First, we'll lightly sand just to rough up the surface of our oak cabinets. This will help the grain filler to adhere to the surface and stick into the pores. I use a slightly bigger sanding pad so that I can get in those edges and sand the grooves. You can also use a brick sanding pad to do it by hand, but I love using my electric sander for this because it's so easy. Now, normally at this point, we would go ahead and wipe off the sanding dust, but we are going to combine two steps and degrease. And as we do this, we'll also be wiping off the sanding dust. I like to use Crud Cutter. Just use the scratchy side of a Scotch-Brite scrubber and really scrub to get the grease or any other residues out of the pores. And once you've done this, wipe it down with a damp rag. Now we are ready to apply the Aqua Coat. You want to use gloves because this is messy, but it is fun. First of all, I like to put on a big glob in the center panel and wipe it into the pores in a circular motion. And this helps to work in the Aqua Coat into the wood grain from all directions. Now I take my little scraper and scrape against the wood grain very, very lightly. And it's okay to leave some little ridges there. We will sand those off later. But I just want to lightly smooth it out and get the excess. And notice that I put the excess back in the Aqua Coat container. You can also go around the edge with your finger to catch that ridge of excess Aqua Coat. And now I like to add some Aqua Coat to my fingertips and put it in the grooves. Make sure to still use a circular motion a little bit to get it in the corners and all the grooves. You can always take off Aqua Coat, so don't be scared about using too much. Now I'm going to get the rest of the frame and that outside edge using a circular motion again. And as you can see from this process, this does take some extra time, but I feel strongly that the results are so worth this extra effort. Also, you will not have to sand or paint as much on my kitchen cabinets. I primed with 2 coats and then painted with 2 coats of paint, and I only used a gallon of paint, and I'm not really sure how that happened. The only thing I can attribute it to is the fact that the Aqua Coat already provided some really good coverage, not just color wise, but it filled up that grain that paint would have gone into. Now I'm using a baby wipe to wipe the excess out of the grooves, and I just want to make sure that there's not a big buildup of grain filler in the corners. Overall, you just want it to be smooth so that it doesn't dry with a lot of ridges. But if you have some ridges where the Aqua Coat isn't smoothed out, that's fine. We will sand that later. And here I'm also using the baby wipe to kind of smooth out the grain filler on the frame so there's not too much excess. And I'm very, very lightly touching the surface as I do this. It might look like I'm rubbing in the Aqua Coat, but I'm very, very lightly touching the surface. And now you can get any extra ridges. And now you are done with the Aqua Coat. Oh, one last step. I like to wipe on the lip of the edge just to make sure there's no buildup that I'll have to sand off later. At this point, I like to let the Aqua Coat dry for about 2 hours before sanding the surface. And again, we're just very lightly sanding to remove any excess or any ridges on the surface. Here's the finished surface after I primed and painted. You can still see a little bit of the wood grain, which is good because I still wanted it to look like hardwood cabinets, not laminate, but you're not seeing those little indentions that the paint alone couldn't cover. Overall, the Aqua Coat grain filler gives your cabinets a really professional finish at a fraction of the price. Go to renovatedfaith.com for the full tutorial and a supply list. Also, you can download a free step-by-step guide to painting your cabinets. Thanks for watching.